Today, every day, small cap investors visit Agoracom knowing this is the day to discover the world's next great company, to have their dreams come true. That's why I take to the open road, to find them, to tell their stories, to engage them, to bring them to life, because they want to connect with you from your office, your phone, your home, anywhere. Agoracom, find your dream. Welcome to CEO Interviews, a production of Agoracom, in which we take the time to speak with small cap executives about what's going on at their companies. With us today, happy to have him back to start off the new year, the new decade, Paul Gill, CEO at Lomiko Metals, trades on the venture under LMR, and for our friends in the US, on the OTCQB under LMR-MF. Now, program note, for those of you that are watching, love the fact that you're watching, but if you can't always get yourself in front of a screen to watch, you can also listen to these interviews on your favorite podcasts, including Spotify, Google Podcast, Apple Podcast. That way, bring us into your car, into the waiting room of the doctor, the bus, wherever it may be, because at the end of the day, you want the information as fast as you can. For those of you who are new to the story, Lomiko is in the midst of proving up a very high-grade graphite deposit. That's the Loutre Graphite Property that's beautifully located just a little over 100 kilometers away from Montreal. Big numbers there already out of two zones, the graphene battery zone and the refractory zone. We're waiting for the resource estimate to come out. We'll talk about that maybe here, but that's what the market's really waiting for, and we're all expecting something really nice to come out of that. But before we talk about that, what we're talking about here, I'm going to read the headline, is that Canada and the United States have finalized their critical metals collaboration agreement. Paul, welcome back to the show.
Thanks, George. Thanks for having me on.
Happy New Year to you and everyone at Lomiko. And I can only imagine where Lomiko is going to be 10 years from now, given what we're seeing with this collaboration and what we're seeing in the electric vehicle market that's just now starting to really take shape.
Yeah, George, we think this is the electric vehicle revolution that's kicking off in 2020, and it's going to go on for the next 10 or 15 years. We're going to see a lot of developments in electric vehicles. We look today at the charts, and Tesla's over $500 per share. I mean, that means that there is a bull market in these electric vehicles, and likewise, there's going to be a bull market in the materials needed to build them. So we were looking at a number of things, including that trade agreement, that have factor into that.
And a lot of people don't know about this agreement because it just kind of came into fruition right around the holidays, right? There aren't a lot of details out about it. So the name is pretty explanatory for industry people like you and I reading it. But, you know, you as a CEO, maybe tell us how important this is, and generally, not necessarily to Lomiko yet, but more generally speaking, you know, how important is this to the Canadian resources market, especially when it comes to competing with China?
Yeah, it's highly important, and we've been watching this develop for a number of years. They've defined critical metals since 2011 and 12, and they finally really got together and organized a supply chain that's going to be North America based. That's really what the collaboration is all about. Let's make sure we have supply chain assurity that we if we build factories here in North America for lithium-ion batteries or for electric vehicles, the materials needed to build them will be available. And right now, all of those materials, the majority of those materials, come from outside North America. A lot of it comes from China. And we know that China and the US have had their disagreements. They're two superpowers vying for number one spot in the world when it comes to control over the economy. And the Chinese would rather sell us lithium-ion batteries fully made rather than investing in companies here in North America that will make those batteries. And I think it's highly important for our own economy to be part of that supply chain and have a factory set up here in North America that'll employ workers here.
And it's interesting that you talk about the fact that conversation about this first started in 2011, but it really started to take a life on of its own when the Chinese were intimating, making little threats that they may hold back a lot of these, critical metals from the U.S. as part of bargaining chips for this trade, this tariff war that they're in. So, what will this mean now that it's actually happened, right? So it's on its way. There's no stopping it now. What do you think this will mean for investment into Canadian juniors? And this isn't going to be gold and silver companies. These are going to be the critical metals companies. What do you think that does? Does it literally turn the focus on them overnight now that this is official?
Well, it gives us a level playing field with all the American companies that are looking for these same materials in America. So, we know that Quebec has a number of different opportunities in rare earths, graphite, and lithium. It's got an overabundance of material and good mining opportunities in Quebec. So, even the premier called it the green battery of North America, primarily because of its great hydro and resources. So I think what it does is it puts us on a level playing field. We'll be able to supply materials, and we may be able to upgrade those materials and supply higher value items to the North American market, to factories that are being built to build lithium-ion batteries or other materials that are related to electric vehicles. So it's a big deal. It gives us a competitive advantage, and I can see that investment has already come into the industry on the basis of this. We're seeing a number of rare earth and graphite and lithium companies bounce back on this basis, and this is not a short-term situation. We're looking at a 10-year market. So we're seeing, for instance, graphite moving up, demand moving up 5 to 10 times in the next decade. That's an incredible amount. We're going to need to supply that, and we're going to have places to go in Canada and the US to fill that demand. Same thing with lithium. But the most important thing is that by volume, aluminum, graphite, those are the two big ones by volume. So those are the big mines that are going to be created. And remember, the backdrop here is 100 mega factories are being built around the world right now to supply lithium-ion batteries for all kinds of power packs, whether it be electric vehicles and Tesla or other ones, or in fact even cell phones. So, the step back and see the picture here, it's huge. The opportunity is big.
And you've touched on graphite. Naturally, everyone who's watching this at home is going to want to have that conversation. So, that's a great segue. I'm just going to ask you direct. How important is this to Lomiko in terms of really superpowering your advancement forward and your progress forward as a company, as opposed to where you just were a year ago?
Yeah, right now we have 2 or 3 companies that have reached the feasibility stage. Mason Graphite, Northern Graphite, Nouveau Monde. These are all companies that have an opportunity to fit into the supply chain when they're at that feasibility stage by getting investment to go to the next level. Lomiko Metals is 1/10 of the market cap of all of those other ones. And so we have an opportunity right now to build up and do a 43-101 resource, and then step up and do metallurgy and progress towards a preliminary economic assessment, which will go a long ways into describing the value we have, the material in the ground. And I think we have very comparative property to all those other ones, which are trading 30, 40, 50 cents. And so we're looking forward to getting the word out and telling people that now is the time. We're looking at 10 years of very, very good markets for these materials. And we should really take the opportunity to invest in Canada and invest in some of these companies.
Are those companies competitors? Naturally, they're competitors, but do you view them as pure competitors, or are they just necessary because, as much as you'd love to, Lomiko won't be able to service 100% of the North American market. So you need other companies there just to, handle the load. So, do you fit in nicely when you come to the market at some point with your 43101 resource estimate? Do you think you start to fit in nicely into that picture as well, into that group?
Yeah, we're not necessarily directly competitive, but we are competitive when it comes to investment dollars. Within Canada, but there's a bigger pie that's going to be created here when U.S. investors realize that there's opportunities. If you look at the big picture, Tesla being at $500 plus per share, and all of these other new companies coming into the electric vehicle industry, that just means you need that much more volume. 100 mega factories of lithium ion, these are huge factories. Each of them have 10,000 workers in them. Wow. In China, for instance. These are huge factories. This is not small stuff. So each one of those will probably need, or two or three of them might need one mine alone. So if that's the case, we still need about 25 to 30 of these new graphite mines, a number of new lithium mines. And so, we're not necessarily competitors on that global scale, but if we have a success in North America for supplying graphite, we're gonna get a lot more attention for all the rest of the companies. So I think it really helps to have a competitor that's ahead of us, that's already paved the road. We just need to follow that same path and get to the same conclusions about our property, which we've looked into it. We think we've got something.
So if I'm reading between the lines there, even with you guys coming online, plus the companies you mentioned, am I reading too much into it to say that you're actually calling for there's going to be a supply shortage for the graphite, the kind of graphite that's necessary for these gigafactories?
Yeah, like for every given mine, not 100% of it will be able to be converted into electric vehicle graphite anodes. That's not going to happen. There's maybe only 15 or 20% of each mine that can be used for that purpose. So you're going to have to dig through a lot of material to find the right stuff. So that's why you need a number of small mines opening within Canada. And there's room for a lot of companies to develop in this industry. And the more companies there are, the more investors there are attracted to the industry, and the more attention we get as one of the ones that have been in the industry for 5 or 6 years. So I think we have to make the pie bigger. We have to reach out and tell people about the opportunity in lithium and graphite and cobalt as well. I think those are a number of big opportunities in the next 10 to 15 years.
Paul, are we going to look back at this agreement, this collaboration, as a big turning point in this critical metals market for Canadian juniors? You think we'll be looking back this 2, 3, 4, 5 years from now and say this is a major turning point because North America wants to buy North American?
Well, I think we have to look back at the history of the architect of this particular plan, and that's Lisa Murkowski, who is the senator from Alaska, Republican senator from Alaska, who actually put together a plan around oil and energy back 10 or 15 years ago. And that was because she wanted to develop the Bakken region and Alaska oil as well, and have America become a supplier and exporter of oil. Well, they've accomplished that. Yeah. They are now self-sufficient, and that's a powerful, powerful thing. If you were dependent on another economy or country, you've got a weakness. So it's absolutely required that they have enough materials to build out their economy, and that the economy we know is going towards the electric vehicle. Electric vehicles need graphite, lithium, cobalt, and a number of other rare earths. So, if you step back and look at that picture, there's a direct line from the political sort of outset to right to our front door. And I think we have a great opportunity to plug into that supply chain, build the materials that are required, and really turn this into a big situation.
And that was a really lofty goal, 10 years ago from her, but and took a while, but it worked. So you got to figure that now everyone's just going to follow the same blueprint and blast through it fearlessly, because now they've seen the power of being self-sufficient on energy. So you got to figure everyone's going to be hungry to be self-sufficient on critical metals.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, this is one of the most important things a country can have, is self-sufficiency when it comes to materials. And just think about this: if it isn't grown, it's mined. Every product that isn't grown has to be mined, or a part of it has to be mined. So we know that these materials have to come from somewhere. And let's not be naive about, oh, Teslas are completely free of metal. No, they're not.
Yeah.
We have to have materials to if you want to impact climate change, or you're environmentalist, thank God for you, but you need to mine. And we have to have control over what comes out of the ground here in North America, and not depend on Africa or South America, or export our problems. We can make very efficient, very economic, and very sustainable mines right here in North America. Let's get it done.
Last question, Paul. You've had some great fortune with governments. You had the Quebec government a few months back say, we're going to go green as far as our public transportation, everything. Remember that? That was really big. And with Loutre being just northwest of Montreal, they couldn't have been better news for you. Now we got this. So the table is set. The big question, I saved it for last, not to put you on the spot, but maybe you can help people at home just what to look forward to. What are your thoughts on timing for the updated 43101 on La Loutre? And before you answer that, maybe give people who aren't familiar with the story an indication of how big La Loutre is already, what you already know about it, and then when the 43101 might come out.
Yeah, George, what we were looking for is a top 5 project worldwide. That's what we were looking for when we found Loutre. We killed 3 projects in order to find this one. And what we found was an area that was over 2,800 hectares that had the first 2 exploration areas are both going to be resources. So we know this is a huge property. It can have material coming for a long, long time. Secondly, what we were looking at is defining some very high grades so it would be economic and very, very profitable. And that's what we did previously, is we found 1 resource already. It was just a little bit under where we wanted. Now the refractory zone, we've drilled into it, and the numbers have come back fabulous. We now want to define that into a resource. And so where does that go from there? Well, what we do is we find what the economic value of that resource will be once we produce the material and take it to market. So we can go out there and shop it around to different investors, large-scale investors who'll help us build and help us market the product.
Sure.
But location is everything. Location is great, and you're right. Quebec is the green battery of North America. We're right near an international port as well. We've got a highway going right past the property, all the way down to the port of Montreal. We've got a large multinational called Imerys Carbon and Graphite 50 kilometers away. So we've got a workforce that's ready to go. They're about to shut their mines down in that area. So we'll have an opportunity to either sell the mine or hire their workforce.
And timing on 43111, do you have a ballpark estimate? If you don't, then I don't want to pin you down, but naturally, I think everyone who's watching or listening to this is probably thinking, hey, George, ask them, what's a rough timeline estimate for the updated 43101 where you can really tell the market what you've got?
Well, it looks like we're going to have that 43-101 around February or March. It really depends on how much money we raise in the company. We're looking to raise small tranches now to get those things done piece by piece. 43-101, metallurgy, and then the PEA. So we're looking at before March, and then by the end of the year on the PEA.
Paul, thanks for joining us today. Really great that you took the time to explain to everybody what this critical metals agreement between the U.S. and Canada really means, how big it is, because details are they're still working on it. So the fact that you're able to come out and give your 2 cents from a graphite executive's point of view, I think is fantastic. And we look forward to the 43-101 coming out. I'm sure sometime next 5 or 6 weeks we'll be hopefully back here again talking about that. But in the meantime, congratulations on this, because just more great news rolls into Lomiko's lap just at the perfect time. And this is the second time government's giving you a boost in your business plan, and I'm really happy for you guys.
Yeah, thanks, George. I mean, we're way ahead of the game. We know the puck is in the net. We see the net bulge, but the red light hasn't come on yet. So everyone else will wait for the red light. You and I know the puck's in the net, so we're happy as anything, and we'll wait for everyone else to catch up.
Well, with you saying that next time you're on with hopefully you're talking 43-101, then I'm going to bring one of those Budweiser red light. One of those Budweiser red
That's
lights.
great.
Turn it on when you can actually report, the findings of the 43-101 and the size and how big it is. So I'll hold you to that. But thanks for joining us, Paul. Really appreciate this.
Thanks, George. Have a good day.
You've been watching, or maybe even listening, to Paul Gill, CEO of Lomiko Metals, trades on the TSX Venture Exchange under the stock symbol LMR, and for our friends in the US under LMRMF. If you're a believer in renewable energy, if you're a believer in what's going to happen to electric vehicles, and if you're a believer in what's going to happen to both of those in the next decade, then it behooves you to take what Paul has said, digest it, and begin your own due diligence. Start that on Agoracom, get to the hub for Lomiko, go into the profile section there where a lot of information is nicely laid out about Loutre and all the things that you need to know. And then hyperlink over to the company site to take a look at even more detailed information. And I'd also suggest watching 2 or 3 of our most recent interviews, of the latest interviews we've done, so you can really get a feel. Do your due diligence. Great company, and not just because they're an Agoracom client, because you can't pay me enough to say something I don't believe in, but Paul and his team have been visionaries in graphite way before everybody else. They've been patient. They haven't hopped around from hot metal to hot metal. They've stuck with graphite, and they're about to be the beneficiaries of what looks like a fantastic decade. So why not you maybe be a beneficiary as well? Start your due diligence, get to Agoracom. Have a great day, everyone. Talk to you soon.